Good afternoon. My name is Pamyla Fountain Brown. I am the Community and Citizenship Director for the Lakeside Alliance. The Lakeside Alliance is the construction management team selected to oversee the construction of the Obama Presidential Center. We are a team comprised of 5 companies: Brown and Moman, Ujama, Safeway, Powers and Sons, and Turner Construction. We are extremely excited to be with you this afternoon to really talk to some great organizations doing some great work, but just a little bit of history of Lakeside Alliance and who we are. For the past couple of years, we've been crisscrossing across the city to really talk about the project that's coming to Jackson Park and really talk about the opportunities that will be available to people who are interested in jobs or careers in construction, if you will. And for the past 8 months now, since we've been in this pandemic, we've decided to use our platforms to really bring to light a number of groups and businesses who are doing their best to make certain that people in the community are learning more about the great opportunities that are out there and all the employment opportunities and everything else. So today, we're having a workshop, we're hosting this workshop called Breaking the Barriers Workshop, because as we talk to different people, we understand that there's some folks who have some different barriers that they have to overcome in order to go into the construction industry or any job for that matter, right? Be it like no driver's license, you have a background, no GED or no high school diploma, or you may just not even know that these are services and organizations that are out there to actually help you. So if you are actually watching us right now, we want you to type your questions in the chat box, because we're gonna get to those later, because we got some great folks who are gonna talk to you today about the things that they have going on, and really just being encouraging to make certain that, you know, we are really truly educating our folks and really getting them connected to the resources that they need. So we are extremely excited to be hosted today in person. We are so safely, socially distanced. You see the hand sanitizer, we got our masks, we got all this stuff. We are super excited to be hosted today by ECCSC. And I have with me today the Executive Director, Tyrone Muhammad. So Tyrone, I want you to give a little bit about who you are, how this came to be, and the great things that are happening. And then once we go from you, we'll bring in some of our other guests.
Thank you. As Pamela said, I'm Tyrone Muhammad, Executive Director of Ex-Cons for Community and Social Change, ECCSC. I spent 21 years in prison, and upon watching and hearing and watching our young men come in and out of prison where it seemed like there was no real, shall I say, reclamation, reform in prison, we decided that we could no longer wait on pastors, politicians, legislators to legislate properly as it relates to reforming the bodies that enter prison. So with that being said, we as a group, we decided that it was going to take us to save us. That means that since we had a hand in destroying the communities, we was no longer going to be victims. We was going to be active and activated to change, to become the change we wanted to see. Because we understood that tax dollars wasn't serving us. We understood that those tax dollars wasn't serving us. And from that, we said that, you know, we're not going to call it return to citizens for social change, because most of the guys that I represent never felt or don't feel like returning citizens in their own, don't feel like citizens in their own communities. So how are they returning to something that they're not owners in? How are they returning to something that doesn't respect them as men, even women? But we said that we really are convicted, so we're ex-cons. We really are. And although that is not the connotation we want to remain, we want ECCSC to be the basis of how you judge us.
So how long y'all been around?
3 years. I mean, I formulated it in prison over about 7 years, 8 years ago. But 3 years we've been active in, I would say that our group have been responsible for putting over 150 to 200 ex-felons to work. I mentor over 80 young men ages 8 to 27. And just
not having a real accurate count, but I'm sure with collaboration of other groups, we've been responsible for reducing probably 200 to 300 shootings.
That's the big
So
one.
you can't quantify or qualify that because innocent people get shot as a result. So it could be more.
Right.
But this is the thing we've been grossly, although I wanted to be an organization that focused mainly on mentoring young men and at-risk youth, violence has become like our number one engagement, de-escalation, prevention.
Okay.
And that's, I really hope that we can have we'll be able to collaborate and have the resources
Right.
so that would not be
Yeah,
the
I
case.
mean, let's talk a little bit about the programs that you have here.
Yes.
The stuff that you've been doing lately. Like, talk a little bit about that.
Well, right now we're currently a part of a program that allow us to hire
Okay.
20 to 40 individuals.
Okay.
Yeah, we currently have at least 40 applicants,
Okay.
in which we've been able to put at least 15, maybe 20 to work currently.
Okay.
And those people work with ECCSC, although most of them may not be members, but in working in ECCSC, they are members. So we'll be out in the communities doing community service, whether it's, we look into different areas to perform some cleanup.
And talking to your staff today,
Yes.
I learned more about the type of training that you all have the ability to do.
Can you get
Can you hear me?
Yes.
That you all have the ability to do,
Yes.
like do job training, right?
Yes.
Financial literacy.
Financial literacy?
That's important. Like, you get your first big check, you can't go and buy a brand new car,
That's right.
right? So it sounds to me like you all have a program here that's kind of holistic in this approach
Yes.
to kind of inviting young men into the program or whatever. Do you have young women?
Well,
We're working on that right now as we speak to create our director for the women. So we do have a women program, it's the ECCSC Vanguard.
Okay.
So women have always been the vanguard in the front line of our communities. So I want to keep it in that line. But in dealing with women, we have to have the right group of women to deal with our girls.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because with the Me Too movement, we don't want to deal with that. We want to have professionals and real, we want to offer our input, but we want women to be able to guide and direct their own issues. Our mentor program, we're about to start Big Brother and Piece of, when we talk to our young men, we're starting to ages 8 to 24 maybe, and then we got different groups that we would like to talk to, that like 12 to 16. And we hope that the women, we would encourage them to give us their voice so that we could do some behavior modification, so we could do some manhood training. All these things that allow these young men to properly acclimate into manhood. And we got great guys around that can help them do that.
Okay. That's all good stuff, man, in this age of COVID and socially distanced and stuff, so excuse us for having to pass the microphone, but I'm happy to be able to share the microphone with a brother who's doing good stuff. So you've talked a lot about the importance of getting young brothers, young men, young women ready to go, right? Getting them ready to go into whatever career that they have. So in our travels across the city and talking about people going into construction and things of that nature, it was really important for us to try to put something together so that people knew what resources were actually out there, right? Because if they don't know you out there, they don't know to come and get some help before they, feel comfortable enough, right?
Yeah.
Comfortable enough actually making their way into the world. So one of the other barriers that we have found, besides people having, being involved, right, in the justice systems, or justice involved, if you will, is that some folks don't have proper hands-on training. Like okay, I want to do this, but I don't really know where to go, or I don't have a GED, or I don't have any of those things. So we have found that there's some very good resources here in the city of Chicago to make that happen. So the other people who are joining us today, we have Lucretia Jameson from Dawson Technical Institute. We also have Dean Horace Henry from the city colleges. They're both going to be talking about the programs that they offer. I was shocked because I didn't know some of this stuff. And so I feel like it's our job, especially as the Lakeside Alliance, the team that's actually building the Obama Presidential Center, to make as much change and positive change that we can, being attached to our name. So I wanted to invite them to come on and talk to us a little bit about the things that they have going on. We're going to hear from Dean Horace first to talk about the GED program that they have there. So Dean, I'm gonna toss it to you. We got a split screen with Lucretia there, because they both work within city colleges. Both are doing great things. So hop in, let's talk about it, and let's get to it.
Thanks, Pamela. Hello, everybody.
Hey.
On behalf of our college president, Gregory Thomas, and our campus leadership, we're so excited to be here today. We know that the issues that have been talked about today, they're not only important, but they are very urgent. So we want to make sure that as Kennedy King College, as a staple in our community, that we participate in this progressive movement. So we know that construction is a lucrative career with direct economic mobility. However, one of the requirements is that you need to have your high school diploma or your high school equivalent certificate. And that's where city colleges come in. We help students prepare and sit for the high school equivalent exam. Now, you know, since 2014, the exam has changed. Some people say it's difficult. You know, we say it's more rigorous. So, you know, it's at the best interest of our students to come to one of our campuses to take classes and become well prepared, you know, to be successful. So no matter where you live, if you live on the northwest side, the River College, you live on the northeast side, it's Truman College, you live in the middle of the city, that's Mount Lex, you're on the southeast side, it's Olive Harvey, and most importantly, if you're on the south side, there's the great Kennedy King College. You know, because I'm not just biased, but we have the best, the coolest name, right? Kennedy name. It's awesome. So what's even more beneficial is that this is free to everybody. You do not pay tuition for adult classes. There's no enrollment fees. There's no registration fee. We provide instructors. We provide textbooks. So, you know, City College and Kennedy King College, we're all about equity and access and equality. We know this is a big deal for our students. And I would know this, because I'm a proud recipient of a GED diploma. So we also recognize that some of our students, as we teach remotely, you know, due to COVID, all of our adult ed classes are online. So city colleges have given students the opportunity to request for loaner Chromebook. So not only are we providing the classes for free and the textbooks for free and the instructors for free, but during the era of COVID, we are also providing free Chromebooks for all of our students.
Dean Horace, I want to pause for 2 seconds because you said some very important stuff, because I was going to ask about, in this day and age of COVID and the digital divide, which is very, very real, what things were the city colleges doing to kind of help that? And you just said it, that students can sign up for Chromebooks and it's free, right? And then it's
Absolutely.
online, so they can really go at it at their own pace, right?
Yeah, so we will make sure that the organizers get all the necessary information, but part of our online registration process, students get a link, and they have the option to request for a Lowland Chromebook. And as long as they're taking courses with colleges, they have the opportunity to use those Chromebooks from home.
That's good
Um,
stuff. Tyrone, let me ask you a quick question for you. Do you all have computers here, or is that something that you need?
Good.
Thank you, Dean. Good, you should ask that question because I reached out to several construction companies who are looking for computers for us now.
Okay.
Natalie from McHugh, she's committed to giving us computers,
Yep.
but we need at least 80 computers.
So we hear
And
them say,
laptops.
we on YouTube, we're on Facebook right now. We have someone who's doing great work in the community who's in need of computers. So what I'm gonna say to any of you out there who has
Even if they're old.
who has access to any of those resources, if you would like to donate the computers to Tyrone's organization so that people can actually sign up for the great programs that Dean Horace is talking about with getting your high school equivalency diploma or a high school equivalency exam or the GED as they call it, you can actually reach directly out to Lakeside Alliance at our website at www.lakesidealliance.com, and we will make certain that we connect you with all the right people. We want to make certain that all this good work that is happening, it continues to happen, and that we are continuing to connect people to those different resources. So is Dean Henry still there, Maurice?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so if someone wanted to sign up for the GED, do they just go to your website? And for the people watching, we'll have all the links to these great organizations on our website at www.lakesidealliance.com at the end of this broadcast today. So you won't have to be worried about trying to take notes and all that other good stuff because we don't want you to miss the great discussion. So go ahead, Dr. Horace.
Yeah, so students can go to ccc.edu. They have the option, again, depending on where you live. You can attend any of our campuses across the city. But now that we are learning remotely, you can absolutely, stay at home and I suggest you come to Kennington College. You can send an email to kk.ed@ccc.edu, and we will provide all of the necessary services.
Thank you. That is excellent information. So I'm gonna do a natural bridge right here, right? I'm gonna do a natural bridge right here to Miss Lucretia Jameson. Lucretia Jameson, she's been doing this work for a long time. I'm saying doing this work, I haven't even told y'all what she does. So I'm gonna leave it to her to give her, your introduction, to give people your introduction, Lucretia, and what you do.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. There's an echo because we want you to hear twice. We'll make sure everybody get this information 2 times. But I am Lucretia Jameson. I am the Dean of Dawson Technical Institute here at City Colleges of Chicago. Our job is to do exactly what you want to do in construction. It's to train you. We are here to train you in the basic certificates of construction. We have advanced certificates in construction, and we also have an associate's degree in construction. Our basic certificates, we have our carpentry, the welding, we have plumbing, we have masonry. So if you're looking for an opportunity with the Obama project, you're looking to find ways to get trained, that's exactly what we do. We don't train you for 10 minutes on a Friday. This is not a grant program that we're trying to make sure we have enough people in. City Colleges is really about pathways. And the pathways in construction, we are looking to help students understand the hard skill that they would need in order to enter these apprenticeship programs and enter entry-level positions in construction. We train all day. So when you come here, we're actually getting you ready for the world of work. When you leave here, you're already understanding how to use the tools, how to frame, how to do plumbing, how to weld. We're teaching you everything you need to know in order to enter an entry-level position. When you say, okay, I have a background, what do I do? Construction is offender friendly. Of course, we teach you all of the things you need to know about different companies, because although construction is offender friendly, maybe the company is not offender friendly. And we teach you about how to make the ask, how to explain what is going on with you. We partner with all types of organizations to help you prepare. So after you understand that I do have an opportunity in construction, now I've actually gotten my GED, my high school equivalency. Now it's time for credit programming. And that's where we come in. Our programs are college credit. It's about 20 college credits. It takes about a semester to complete our basic certificate. We have financial aid for it. All people who are looking, and if they're eligible for financial aid, they can enroll at Dawson Technical Institute. How do we do this? Well, all of the journeymen that you see out there, once they retire, my job is to recruit them to teach our students. So our instructors are journeymen. They have the experience. They have a contracting experience for themselves. So they've been in the field 20, 30 years, and now they're ready to use the information. We're about closing that gap. And you say, well, why would I need to go to a pre-apprenticeship program when I can just go right into an apprenticeship? Because regardless of what you think, there are still barriers to getting into those apprenticeship programs. Those apprenticeship programs say, we're open, come on and apply. But how do they select the 25 out of the 5,000 applicants, the 100 out of the 2,000 applicants? You have to get these certain points and qualifications. That means, do you have pre-apprentice training? Do you have previous experience in the trade? Do you have college credit? Do you have anything that can connect you to construction that relates to this application? Are you ready for the math that you need to take in order to complete that application? So we have a bunch of things that you got to think about before you say, let's go to the apprenticeship program. Well, we serve as that opportunity for you to get prepared. We also serve as a clearinghouse for those apprenticeship programs, because they come to us and say, do you have anyone who would be interested in going into the, the plumber's union 130 or, the heavy operator 150? And we say, yes, we do have students that just completed. We help the students understand the math, the communication, the reading, the actual hard skill that's needed. So we prepare you in order to get into the front door of that apprenticeship. We also work with contractors. So when we have these big jobs, we can work with contractors in these projects and say, hey, look, we have these students available. Are there any entry-level positions for them? And then the contractors help the students get into the apprenticeship programs once they open. They sponsor you guys. They're able to help you your first step. So we are there for you in order to get you a certification in either plumbing or carpentry, welding or masonry. We have advanced certificates in our overhead lineman program and gas utility. You guys may not think that they're needed, but somehow the power comes on and all of these construction and all of this stuff that happens, you say, how does this magic happen? Our students are trained right here to make it happen for you. Well, a lot of our students, even in our overhead program, work directly for utility companies such as NIPSCO and ComEd and everything that's powering, the city. Our students are trained right here. So when you're looking to think about your next step in construction, look to us. Even if you have more experience and you say, I'm looking for behind the scenes, we have a construction management degree, and associates that will teach you everything from project management to cost estimation to business, all of the fundamentals you would need to know in order to how to calculate the cost of those projects and to make sure that they go through. So if you're looking to be one of the laborers or a tradesman, or if you're looking for the business side, you can look right here at City College of Chicago. Looking to complete your high school diploma, come right through and we can connect you right from your high school diploma and get your equipment right to our classrooms and getting credit programming to get you there. So when you're talking about construction, look to city colleges. We're not going to give you a part of your training. We're going to give it all the way. Our instructors are trained. We have the equipment. We just, even in welding, we just started with welding simulators. So before you even get into the welding shop, we're teaching you how to weld with new technologies so that you're more prepared to go into the lab. That's what we do at CCC. We have HVAC as well. So if you're looking for that side with the building a building, there's no way it can work unless you have heating and air. And we do that right at Kenny College. So construction is our game. We are the Center for Excellence. You're looking to get your GED, your high school equivalent, and then go into credit programming. Or if you already have your high school diploma and you are waiting to go into a credit program, we can take you directly right here at Dawson Technical Institute. When you're thinking about the barriers to getting a construction job, remember, although they say you don't need a high school diploma, there's a lot of qualifications they look at to get you to the top 25 or 100 of the applicants that they're picking. So make sure that you are stacked well against your competitor, the next person who's looking to get into that apprenticeship program. There are a lot of non-union apprenticeship opportunities, but the union gives you so much opportunity to build your resume, your career, the benefits, and the wages that you would be looking for in order to take care of your family. So if you're looking for any way to connect to us, we can help you.
You just gave the best commercial, I guess, right? So our job here really is, I have a philosophy. It's better for you to know all of your opportunities so that you can make an informed decision about your pathway. Who am I to choose a pathway for you? You are the expert in your own life. But it is my job to make certain that you know about all of the opportunities, not just, this career versus that career, not just union versus non-union. But I think that we make better decisions when we know what's out there and what resources are available to us. The other question, and it's probably more to you, Tyrone, is that we've talked a lot about construction, because mainly that's what we do. But we've run into people who are like, well, that ain't really for me, but I definitely want to do something else. What things or what kind of training can you kind of connect people to, Tyrone?
See, most of us that are returning citizens, formerly incarcerated, taught a lot of the programs that SAFER and all of these institutions have been teaching. We are the counselors. We are the substance abuse counselors. See, someone coming from prison may want to be a substance abuse counselor. And I'm sure City College has those programs as well. Or they may want to be counselors. See, everyone is not going to work in the construction field. The construction field is probably only 3 to 5% or 7% at the most of the workforce. There's service industry. There's manufacturing. But at the end of the day, this link of ECCSC to city colleges and other institutions is a no-brainer, in that, just like Lucretia ran down all the litany of things that they're able to do, our children in the community is not going to Lucretia to find out what the city colleges is doing. And to not link with organizations such as ours, and there's others out here, the grassroots guys, to not link with them is really doing a disservice to our community. You have to have these alliances with Lakeside.
Right.
Hold on.
All right. Test it.
You have to have these alliances
In order to connect our children to resources.
Right.
And that's very important.
so they're not going to go to her, but they will come to me and say, hey, I need some help. Then if we have a partnership, we can properly link our children, our community to these resources.
So you hit something right on the nail. You hit the nail on the head. Not to use a goofy pun in construction, but nevertheless, and that's how we see ourselves, to be connectors, because we know about all these different organizations that are doing all this great work, which is why the panel looks like it does today, and the organizations who are talking about these things. Because I didn't know, that you could just show up at the city colleges with just a picture ID or something saying you live in the city of Chicago with free access to your high school equivalency diploma, right? I didn't know of the programs that Lucretia ran off with the city colleges that are available to folks who want to learn more about the trades or who want to learn more about the business sides of things. I think that we have to do a better job, Tara, and I think that you are absolutely right in that we can only reach who we reach. There's gonna be some folks who gonna connect to you.
Exactly.
Just because of your experience.
Most folks gonna connect to me. That's why our apprenticeship programs look the way they do. That's why the employment opportunity look the way that it does. Because it's really, our children didn't plan devil advocate. I can't be up here and don't represent the streets or the community. Without saying, with all them programs she ran down, the construction field does not look like us.
Yep, and so this, what I'm hoping today is the start of an ongoing dialogue, right? I like to think right now, we've been put on pause for like 8 months, right, to really figure this thing out. Shame on all of us.
Yep.
If we don't figure out a way to come out of this thing better connected than when we came into it, right? Because if nothing else, when you said it's not all about construction, but it's about manufacturing, it's about the service industry. The service industry kept our economy going, right? And so we have to do a better job in making certain that we're not only knocking down doors to get those opportunities, but we're also doing our part to make certain that not only are we telling the people in the community about the opportunities, but we're getting them set up for success, to get them connected to that as well. So I want to thank Dr. Horace. I'm going to ask you a question because Lucretia brought it up too. Are there other programs within the city colleges that talk about the service industry and things of that nature? Are those types of programs available at city colleges?
So absolutely. So within adult education, we also have a bridge pathway. So students can come to us, and as they work on preparing for the high school entrance exam, they can also be dual enrolled and take the college credits. And right now at Kennedy King, we offer early childhood education. So those students can be studying and planning to go into that field. As soon as they get the high school equivalency, they can quickly transition into college credit and start taking classes to get the early childhood education certificate and start working.
That's really, really good stuff, because I think that your success is only as limited as the opportunities that you are connected to, right?
I would like to
go ahead,
add that if you kind of look, it's really the opportunity to connect people with all careers in all options. I think that we miss a huge opportunity with just connecting individuals or residents with one program or one opportunity. I don't care if it's transportation or logistics, or if it's culinary or whatever it may be. We are kind of stuck in our own lane where we only help others to connect with one thing. And I think that we have to do a better job of talking with our youth, not after they get involved and not after they get in trouble, but preventing and giving options before that. Because one thing that we do as a community, we're constantly encouraging our youth to only take up opportunities in a 4-year college or degree program. And there's so many other opportunities for our youth. With 50% of our students that graduate from high school going to college, we have a huge missed opportunity to take 50% of them with a high school diploma in hand and give them options of a career, and not just saying that if you did not go to college, you failed. If you're underemployed, where you're working at retail or something like that, and you're not making a living wage, we should be giving our youth opportunities of making a living wage. Not making it at your organization or my organization, but making it at different pathways that can really connect them to making a living wage and taking care of their families. And that's prevention.
I'm gonna add another layer to this conversation, because I've been in meetings and I've been in presentations where we focus a lot on the youth, right? Not recognizing that the youth go home to some adults who need access to opportunities and all these different things. Like, so, especially now that we're in this e-learning space, right? You got some parents out there who are struggling. Like, I'm trying to work, I can't do this. So really thinking about, as organizations, right? Organizations and programs, how can we help those parents too? You know what I mean? Because if we're depending on parents to help the young people kind of guide them through, it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like, they can't help their children because they're too busy trying to take care of those basic human needs.
Exactly.
Food, clothing, and shelter.
No, that's an excellent point. We're a community, and ECCSC motto is gonna take us to save us. So, in building our programs, we want this to be a space over here that women can drop their children off and know that they'll be governed properly and looked after properly. As we build that trust in the community, then we want to be assistant to the parents.
Yeah.
Although this won't be the only space and location, we hope to expand and spread out throughout the city so it won't be a travel issue.
Right.
But ultimately, what Lucretia said about the transportation, we have Paul Stewart, who has taken base in residence over here as well, former deputy mayor. So he has a truck and a logistics company, Lucretia, and we will be using, as the formerly incarcerated men come through here, that's another space and lane we will be able to put them in. And I think from what Paul said, though, his training will be coming from one of the city colleges. So those relationships and those connections and resources are piling up and building up. And as you know, we're building out our construction space downstairs.
Yep.
We have about 21,000 square feet of space, and we've had just about every major construction company over here to look at the space, and we've actually had a blueprint of how the build out look to deal with carpentry, plumbing, HVAC, painting, and the likes. And also a space where we will hopefully build a studio. So the music is a real issue for a lot of these young men.
That's gonna be at the Obama Presidential Center.
Well, that is, then we need to have some input on how it look. So this is the great connection, and I hope that we continue to build on it. And the expungement issue talking about. Okay, let's get it.
So as I was saying, like, we wanted to line up a lot of different organizations that do different things, right? There are organizations that do programs and stuff, and I know that the city colleges, they are a great resource actually, and I think we can sometimes overlook stuff that's in our own house. You know, when you got talented stuff and you got good stuff that's already in your house, you overlook it. It's like you got steak in your house, but you want to go out for pizza.
But you say it's the shame on us.
Yes,
because
exactly.
most cases in city colleges is people that look like me that run the ministry.
Yes,
the
yes.
deans, the professors, the teachers. And they don't do their due diligence and reach it down and say, hey man, help me figure out how we can partner. But there's always a job in the business for them, but the streets is in need and they must connect.
So I think that organizations like the Lakeside Alliance, who have these conversations with city colleges, who have conversations with grassroots organizations like yours, Tyrone, I think it's our job to leverage those relationships, right? And let people know, like, hey, you know, if we're on the north side, hey, did you know it's an organization out south who does this, thus, and so, right? And if we out west or whatever the case may be, like, connect. We had to do better at connecting the dots.
But I think, Pamela, I don't know, before we get to those other issues, I don't know, is it because our intellectuals don't feel the need to reach out and they don't know how to reach out? I don't know what it is in terms of that engagement that doesn't allow them to effectively reach out.
Okay, I'm taking my cues from a person over here. We low on time. We have our other guests lined up. Okay, so we had a couple other people to talk. I want to thank KKC and Dawson actually, I shouldn't be using acronyms like that. I want to thank Kennedy King College and Dawson Technical Institute for stopping by with us today and asking us questions. As I mentioned before, we're going to put all those links on our website so that you'll have access to that information at one click. And go on there if you have any questions or anything like that or whatever. Lucretia's information will be up there. The dean's information will be up there. So feel free to do that.
Dean and Lucretia, and inclusion and diversity is real. Reach out.
There it is. We all got our marching orders.
Let's leave it with this. Make sure we all reach out. Don't just put it on us. We all in this community together.
Right, we all in this together. You absolutely right.
We all in together. Let's do it.
For stopping by.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. One of our other guests we have today, in talking with them, one of the other barriers that we know that people actually face is expungement, right? You got a background. And as Lucretia mentioned, the trades, in some cases, right, is background friendly, if you will. But there's still resources out there and people who are actually doing the work and doing their best to affect policy and change in that way to make some stuff happen. So today we have someone from the Monroe Foundation, Jay Allen. He's gonna come up and say a few words about what you all are doing, your programs and your policy efforts and things of that nature. We actually have a camera set up over here at the podium for you.
How you doing?
1, 2, mic check, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I like this background, Tyrone.
Yes,
Great.
sir. Yes, sir.
Great, okay. Good afternoon. My name is Jay Minor Allen. I'm here today to, of course, represent the Monroe Foundation. But another one of the groups, actually, that Tyrone has started to collaborate with. We've got a couple of groups that fall under the Monroe Foundation banner. One of them is Power, so I'm real happy to see this thing about ex-cons, because we've got a brand new organization under the Monroe Foundation that's called Power, okay? And that is prisoners organizing, winning everything, okay? That's one group. My group in particular, I run Power through the Monroe Foundation. I'm like the chief advocate, the guy that talks in the street, the man on the microphone. And we also have Get Clear. And Get Clear is a catalyst group that it's really our campaign. It's the campaign to breaking the cycle of recidivism. So that was one of the things that I was excited about talking to Pam, talking about breaking barriers. We can break those barriers, and like Tyrone was saying earlier, it's very important that we work in a collaborative effort, okay? We need to work in a collaborative effort because what somebody mentioned in that Black Wall Street one day, Tyrone, what you don't do, I do. You know what I mean? What somebody else doesn't do, we do. But let me just tell you guys currently what's going on in terms of expungement. We've got a super campaign where we're pushing expungement, but we found we're going down on election day. We'll be out Saturday with Diane Latiker. We'll be on election day downtown, talking to people that can make it happen, that have committed to make it happen, but haven't been making it happen. You know, and we hate to use real names, but I don't hate to use real names. We talking about Chief Judge. We're talking about Chief Judge Tim Evans.
Didn't I just say don't use names?
Oh, you said don't use names.
I said don't.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. We need to edit that. But you know what? Here's the thing I want to say about that. It's about unclogging the system, okay? So in our case, we're not talking about any people in particular, but we're talking about people that are in the position. So, you know, when you say don't use real names, we don't have to, but we now are meeting with the judges. We're meeting with the people that are in charge of handling expungement. We're meeting with people in the clerk's office who have just let this thing go on and on and on. Tyrone has had an opportunity to visit with us, to participate with us, and guess what? We've got more than a 2-year backlog of people waiting around to get their records expunged.
Is that for every offense?
I'm talking about all offenses. The background is so crazy that's why you want us to. That's why the names want to be used. But we'll get to that. That's not important, okay? What's really important is that we can end this cycle of recidivism and stop blowing smoke up these people and giving them false hope. I'm so glad to see programs like this about, ex-cons for the community and Lakeside and with other people that are doing things in Dawson and Kennedy King, because we are not utilizing what we've already got, the things that are in place. But I think it's very important that everybody here know that we've had summit after summit. We've been in a position where I pay for the guys' rap sheets. I refer them to legal aid, and they still haven't gone anywhere. That's a key component, because let me just say this to you. You were talking about Pam, about what obstacles people up against. Well, they really have obstacles. You know why? Because there's only people like me and Tyrone and Otis Monroe and other groups that help us that have to give these people some hope. So now that we've got a construction kind of place that they can go to, people that we can deal with. I get ex-offenders hired every day by writing a letter, by letting them know that they're on the right path. But I want everybody here to know that we've got to end this clog in the system. You can't come to me, because let me tell you what happens. I've adopted now 100 or 200 guys that don't know me. I'm from the street. I'm J. Minor Allen, the mayor of 79th Street. If he said he's gonna fix it for you, he's gonna fix it for you. So what happens? I get their rap sheet done, I take them downtown, I get them free legal help, and they still ain't got no job. So guess what happens? Now I'm getting them jobs. Now I'm giving them bus fare. Now I'm doing substance abuse counseling. Now I'm doing mental health deal. All of this is because the system's clogged. They thinking that everything is going to be sweet after they come to me and get their rap sheet, and they find out that it's not. The thing that's been able to help, I will tell you this, we've been able to reach out to companies, we've been able to reach out to Tyrone, we've been able to reach out to other organizations and let them know that we've got some qualified people. What I've done in a lot of instances is place these people in a temp job situation. You get what I'm saying? Where they can go work a temp job and they can help get their things together. But just reverting back to what I'm here for, we're talking about breaking the barriers. We're talking about waivers. We're talking about sealing. We're talking about expungement. These are the things and the items that'll help a person do it. And where you come in, Pam, and where you talk about the women and people forming their own companies, we've been able to do a big push on that. The big push on that is, guess what? You may never get your record expunged. You may never get a sealer, but guess what? You can open up Tyrone Pam's construction, okay, and go to work, just like you did in the streets, okay? So I've been able to take former organization leaders, former organization workers, and put them in a construction business. I help as an assist agent for the city of Chicago. We've been able at National Black Wall Street with the Monroe Foundation, with a lot of other organizations, we've been able to make a venue or make a way, for them to be able to do it. And me, I've just been real blessed because I'm on both sides of the court. I'm an ed kid that went to Lindblom, Chicago State, University of Chicago, but I also was a guy that was on 79th Street, okay? Some guys are from 79th Street, I am 79th Street, so I'm gonna make sure that they do it. Tyrone, believe it or not, grew up a block or two right from my house, so he was a little guy on 79th and Peoria and Sangamon and Green back in the day. I've been on 79th Street so long, Father Mike was a gangbanger when I was on 79th. But anyway, you said no real names, but you know what? That's how we turn people around. That's why we got the NBA at St. Sabina. That's why we got guys like that that's in a position. And that's why we work so hard to see their work, so we give them that added motivation. So I'm just here today to talk about breaking barriers. I'm just here today to get this system unclogged. I'm here today to talk to the sheriff, to the chief judge, to the judge that's handling the thing. Don't let them do a racist situation. We hate to play the race card, but look at this. District 2, which is Cook County, where all the people who got cases are in that deal. You got one judge hearing the cases for all of Cook County in District 2. It's never gonna happen. Never ever gonna happen. A guy that just hears cases on Tuesday and Wednesday. So look, in closing, I just wanna say, at National Black Wall Street, at Say Yes to Life, at the Monroe Foundation, we are doing an active push, and furthermore, we are voting, okay? And we're letting the politicians know that we're voting, and we got a real good memory about exactly what's going on, okay? And we want them to know that we're doing it. So, I'll just say in closing, I'm here. You can reach out to the Monroe Foundation. You can reach out to National Black Wall Street, Chicago. You can reach out to Say Yes. That's what we say. We say yes to life. And I want everybody here, and I'll be in constant contact with ECCOC, with ECCSC, and with your group and others to make sure that we get you some active candidates, some actual people that can step out and do what needs to get done. And let's do it. We can do it. Okay. This mic goes back to you.
Yeah.
By the way, you know I'm Mr. Microphone, 95.1 FM, so I can talk from now to you really. So
Okay.
All right.
I got you.
All right.
So again, thank you for that. I do have another guest on the phone. We've been talking about the different barriers, and Jay Martin has talked about, expungement and things of that nature. I had the pleasure of meeting this young woman via video yesterday, and she had a lot of great things to say. So I'm going to ask Tanya Woods there. She had a lot of great information to pass on, stuff that, again, like I'm getting educated as we talk about breaking these barriers, as we talk about providing resources to folks who want to do something different. So with that, Tanya, I'll toss it over to you. You can introduce yourself, your organization, and the great things that you all are doing.
Hi, and thank you so much, Pamela, for that wonderful introduction. My apologies for the graininess of my screen here, but I hope that your listening and viewing audience is still able to receive what I'm able to share with you all today. First of all, thank you for creating this space for us, people to be able to share resources in a very unconventional yet familiar way, which is online. And I hope that people will continue to use this as a source of information that we can share with each other, information that is coming from us, that's for us. I am the executive director of the Westside Justice Center. We are a holistic legal aid clinic located in East Norfolk Park at the corner of Harrison in California. And we provide free legal services for people who are unable to hire an attorney for civil matters, meaning not criminal matters, but those civil matters, as well as providing legal education and information and advocacy around issues of broad concern. And most importantly to us, we attempt to try to uplift and elevate authentic leadership in our communities, which is so very, very important, which some of your speakers have talked about already.
Yes. So sorry. So Tanya, just a couple questions for you. We've met people throughout our travels and throughout the different meetings and presentations we've gone to, who say, well, not only do I have a background, but
Right.
I got a bunch of unpaid parking tickets and a bunch of unpaid stuff, and so my license is in jeopardy. Does your group have the ability to kind of help in that way?
Absolutely. So let's talk about the very specific things that can happen when a person has been impacted by our criminal justice system. Not only is the person who's been incarcerated impacted and has to return to their communities, and I love the way the brother said, we're not necessarily re-entering citizens, because in many cases we do not have the full rights, privileges, and freedoms that most citizens do once we return. So it is often a debt that has to continuously be paid over and over and over and over again. And not only by the individual who was previously incarcerated, but by their family, their loved ones, and their community. So what we can do for those people who find themselves in the unenviable position of returning to their communities and just trying to figure out which end is up, we know that the first two things that will be required of them is to find adequate housing as well as to find a job. And those two very important things can mean the difference between continuing to live life outside of prison or face the fear, the very real fear and threat and danger of returning to prison. And so what we think of as maybe a very simple activity, looking for an apartment and signing a lease, or looking for a job and completing an application and a background check, can then sometimes feel like, the Rock of Gibraltar for someone who has a background or for someone who has spent any amount of time impacted by the criminal justice system. So let's talk about those parking tickets that you just mentioned. And so now after an individual has paid their debt to society, they get out and they might imagine that maybe the car that they had has been impounded. Maybe they've had the unfortunate death of a loved one that's left behind a piece of property, is often the case in our communities, where we just kind of pass things on informally from one generation to the next, out the benefit of the law, and not even always recognizing and appreciating what one has to do to pass along property. Or someone might find themselves in a custody dispute over minor children, or maybe they have unclaimed property that is due to them. There are any number of civil matters that an individual may need an advocate, if not an attorney, to help them. You mentioned parking tickets. So let's think about that for a second. If I've landed a job as a truck driver, and then I find out, some months into, after I've gotten the job and been performing successfully on the job, that then here comes either, a jurisdiction in Illinois or outside Illinois saying, oh, wait a minute, you can't renew your license because you have these fines or these other debts or what have you that are impeding your ability to renew your license. And your license is what you need to drive that truck in order to keep that job. And your employer now says, well, if you can't drive the truck, then you can't keep the job. So imagine how many people's lives may be impacted by that one individual who is no longer now able to keep their job. That might be the immediate family with whom he lives. That might be extended family that's counting on him to send some money back to mama or to a sister that might be trying to matriculate at Kennedy King or what have you. So you're not only talking about the ability to pursue a quality of life for one person, but the ripple effect that has on an entire community. So yes, the long answer is we can help with some of those problems, and where we cannot help with those problems directly at the Westside Justice Center, we have the benefit of belonging to an amazing coalition of other community-based grassroots organizations in a network across the state of Illinois called Illinois Access to Justice. And so you can reach us by telephone at 773-940-2213, and we can put you in contact with other organizations that might be able to address a need when we cannot. And that is truly sometimes the power of when government can work and when systems can work together after the result of community applying the appropriate amount of pressure and flipping the right levers, where we can begin to take back and repower our communities that have been divested and begin to reinvest resources that then work for our people.
That's a lot of great information. I had another question for you, because in my time in working doing direct service, especially with women going into the construction industry, what oftentimes happened is that they were released, right? And they had no clue that someone was out there driving their car while they were incarcerated. They come back out driving on a suspended license unknowingly, right? Are there tips or things that you could tell someone who just comes, like, how can you check? How do you know whether or not you owe these things? Especially, if you're coming out and you're kind of transient and you don't have a fixed place to stay, is there a way for an individual to kind of check and see to make sure that they're still in good standing without getting themselves into more trouble?
Sure. So let me first talk about some preemptive steps, because I think another one of your panelists talked about Oftentimes we are trying to fix these things after they've happened, right? So if you permit me a moment just to talk preemptively about what we can do, getting ahead of the game, and then we can talk about how we can repair things once they maybe have become fractured. So as women, we are often accustomed to kind of carrying the loads and doing so without always asking all the questions that we need to ask, or not even knowing which questions to ask. So this is not a victim blaming, shaming thing. It's just that we often do what it takes to get it done, right? That being said, if brother or boyfriend or paramour or girlfriend says, "Hey sis, I need a car and I need to drive for Uber," and you just got out, so you probably actually have a clean history, better than mine. I've jacked up my credit report. Can I use your car? And oftentimes we will do this. We see high incidences of women incarcerated for, situations, I'll call them, where we are trying to help out, or we're trying to bridge a gap, or we are taking, the rap for somebody else. So this is not an uncommon story. And then what can happen is you get out and you realize the person has racked up some tickets, or the vehicle in connection with something that you had nothing to do with, and now you're on the hook for that. So one preemptive way to avoid doing that and still being able to try to help out is, under no circumstances should you willingly, be wanting to put your name on a document and then let someone else then be the driver of that car, no matter how dire of the circumstance. Because the minute you are not the driver of that vehicle, you have no control of what will happen. And if you're not willing to report it stolen to the police because your little brother or your boyfriend is driving it, and you don't want to necessarily turn this into a law enforcement issue, then you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. But if you have found yourself making that decision and now you are trying to get out of it, one thought you might have to yourself is, how can I check and see if my license is clean? So for your license plate, that is issued by the Secretary of State, Jesse White. So you can check on the Cyber Drive Illinois website to find out if there are any types of violations on your driver's license. So that might be your state issued driver's license as well as your license plate. If your car has been stripped of its license plates, you should report it stolen, because at any point that license plate is associated with any vehicle that might be used in connection with a crime, you're going to be on the hook for it. And the question is, well, if your plate was gone, why didn't you report it stolen? So I'll use myself as an example. My vehicle was stolen in 2016, and I was kind of assured that I might recover the vehicle again at some point. But after a day and it didn't happen quickly, I immediately reported the plate stolen. I wasn't necessarily trying to assist in getting anybody in trouble or facilitate anyone's arrest, but what I was trying to do was protect myself and my livelihood. And in so doing, when the vehicle was recovered, anything that happened on that license plate while it was not in my custody could not be then connected with me. Because what we do know about the law is that, as colleagues often say, justice is not blind, it sees very clearly. When you are a Black person, you'll see that justice applied often disparately, meaning that you can say to high heaven, I didn't have the car, I didn't have the vehicle. Well, you didn't report it lost or stolen, so you're on the hook for whatever happened while it was not in your care. The second thing is, now you're dealt with the state of Illinois, so that's your driver's license and that's your license plate. And that will get you part of the way. But then the question becomes, if you need to recover the car from someone, is there still a loan on the car that you need to recover? Because then all of those things are still at play and your name may still be associated with that vehicle. So you would want to take the necessary legal steps to, one, become disassociated with not only the license plate, if it's no longer in your custody, but also the loan, which you are still going to be on the hook for, whether or not you have the vehicle or not in your care. So it can get very complicated very, very quickly. And that's an instance where you want to seek out the assistance of an advocate, someone that, like at the Westside Justice Center, that could help you kind of unravel those things and be as open, upfront, and honest about the situation so that we would be able to give you the best assistance possible. This is an instance where you may not need an attorney, but you do need what we call a community navigator or a community advocate, someone that can help you unravel these very complex, bureaucratic, red tape systems that often do not work in our favor without the assistance of someone who knows how those systems work.
Right, you said something key, having had to visit the courthouse for different reasons is pretty intimidating. And to say that, you may not necessarily need an attorney to do these things, but you may need a navigator or an advocate in that way, that is a great thing. How would someone know that that's what they needed, right? So I'm sitting here and I'm dealing with all this stuff on my own, like I can't see my way from it or whatever the case would be. How would I know that that's what I'm looking for? Would I be able to, and how do I protect myself from not connecting with some unscrupulous attorneys or some unscrupulous groups who are like, yeah, we can help you with that for like $10,000. Like how would I know who to call, if that makes any sense?
Of course it makes sense, right? So it's no different than trying to find the assistance of a good doctor, right? And that's very real. Just as there are unscrupulous attorneys, or there can be doctors who don't have great bedside manner, or who will often give us only part of the information that we need to make successful decisions for our keeping and our care. Certainly there are unscrupulous professionals everywhere. But when we add the overlay of race and gender and all the other ways that we experience otherness, then those systems can work to our disadvantage in ways that they don't work to a disadvantage for other people who don't experience the same type of otherness. So that, rings true for everyone, but certainly the consequences are very dire when you talk about legal matters if you are not getting resources and assistance and guidance and professional care from trusted professionals that and as we say, not all skin folk are kinfolk, right? So we don't live in an era where we can just trust just because people look like us on the outside that they share our same sense and sensibilities. And that's why places like the Westside Justice Center operates not in a vacuum, but as part of a fabric of a coalition, meaning that we all vouch for one another. So if any one of us in that family is behaving out of order, you're not canceled, but you certainly have to be rehabilitated and contained so that you do not cause anyone else in the community harm. Right? So we know we live in this cancel culture that says oftentimes when somebody has transgressed against the people in the community, they're canceled, right? I suggest that we have better ways of restoring justice to our community. We can certainly rehabilitate in ways that serve the community, can bring someone back to the community, and then prevent further harm in ways that the outside systems of justice do not work very well. So the question was about how do we know where to go and who we can trust. So one is you can arm yourself with legal information and education for starters. That is one thing that we can do. So the Westside Justice Center is spending much of its energy and time right now while we're in a shelter-in-place environment in trying to provide access to free information and education about some of the common legal problems that we see, that if only armed with the right information from a trusted source, from people who not only look like us, but have studied and trained and also tried to share that knowledge with others, then we are in a better position to be able to not find ourselves in some of those very dire situations. So let's take, for instance, upon becoming a homeowner, we know that we have to pay our mortgage, we're told that we have to pay our taxes, we're told that we have to have homeowners insurance. I don't really recall anybody telling me at that closing table when I bought my house 27 years ago that if I was late on my taxes, that then someone who I did not know could purchase my taxes, put a lien on my house, and then take my house while I still had a mortgage. That was not in the couple of hours that I spent at the closing table. That's information that many of our people need to know, Because what we have especially in Black communities on the west and south sides of Chicago, where we have people that are passing down property without necessarily going to the recorder of deeds, not necessarily, going through a title company and conveying the property. We're just kind of living in the property 2, 3 generations, sometimes 4. Somebody dies, then we just keep paying the taxes and the water bill, and we think it's okay. And it's not until something happens that kind of upsets the apple cart that then we realize there's some other layers to this, there's some steps to this, but we're not necessarily educating ourselves from one generation to the next. And that's where organizations like the Westside Justice and others can give that information. So that's arming yourself with information and education from a legal and trusted source. Once we have that information, then it's like, what do we do with it? It's important that we not only just keep it to ourselves, but we share it. So that's where programs at the Westside Justice Center and other places like our Community Advocates program are so very important. And what's a program like that do? So imagine, Pamyla, you are the expert in your community on, let's say, Social Security appeals, right? You've done it enough times. You helped your Aunt Susie do hers, and you help Big Mama do hers. And so you kind of know the ropes on how to file a Social Security appeal. Imagine if you had not only that information, but then you partnered up with seasoned attorneys and other legal professionals to kind of shore up maybe some of those gaps in your knowledge, and then you went back to your community and you were able to help others. That's how we build capacity. That's how we repower our community. That's how we uplift authentic leadership in our communities. So that it's not always we have to run to the lawyer downtown, but we begin to build capacity right where we are, right? So those are ways that we now take that same legal education and information that Pamyla got. She's going to put a multiplier with it and then be able to spread it around the community. It's like sowing seed. And I'm using that as an example because we just installed a brand new awesome mural on the back of the Westside Justice Center, 22 feet high, called Sowing Seed. And it's about taking, kernels and seeds of information and being able to plant it in a fertile community and watch it spread and grow. The last thing is, after we've gotten that information and we've spread it around, then we have to advocate for systemic change. Because one thing we do know is that the system is not broken. The system really works. It works very well in keeping the haves in a have situation, and keeping the have-nots in a codified caste system right where they are. So we can use now this information that we have now spread around and then advocate for systemic change. That means breaking down barriers wherever they may lie. That's anti-racist education for our allies. That is educating ourselves long before an election on our judges and figuring out which organizations we need to tag and follow and share long before November comes around. So the same way I'm going to follow Dean Horace, and I'm going to follow Dean Lucretia and find out where she's going on vacation and somebody had a baby, and all those are great things. I need to do the same kind of homework ahead of time on which other websites I need to follow, which are the accounts on Instagram I need to follow, so I can learn about judges long before it's time for me to vote. Where do I find out about what a referendum is long before I need to educate myself and read this very long fine print referendum about fair taxes and figuring out how I should vote? So it's arming yourself first. And just like what they say, when the plane is going down, you got to put your life vest on first before you can save someone else. So then sharing that information with others and then advocating for systemic change relentlessly. Right? It's like all the time, chipping away at all of the chinks in the armor so that eventually we get to a point where we are dismantling and breaking down these walls that continue to keep us on the other side of progress.
So I'm happy that you said, when you said that you are connected in a network, right? And you vouch for one another. And you mentioned doing our homework, and you mentioned Dean Horace, and we have him back in the conversation. One of the things that I want to really, because you touch on a really key point, in our community, we don't really care that you have great information, right? Our first question is who sent you, right? And who's vouching for you, right? Because as you said, all skin folk ain't kin folk, right? So especially with the city colleges being, a Chicago institution. I mean, like, we remember when the UIC down by Roosevelt, the Loop, and when Harold
Luke was
Washington College.
now here in Washington, right?
Yes. So, how can the organizations kind of work together, or does Westside Justice have a connection with the city colleges, or how can we set up something where there's kind of a referral there? How can we continue to build the trust in the community? And Tyrone walked in just in time, actually, to build the trust in the community so that we can trust one another. Like, I can trust Tyrone to have my best interest at heart, right? I can trust Tanya and her team if I go to have my best interest at heart. I'm looking, what's that conversation look like to bridging the gaps with all of these different organizations who are offering all these great things?
So
How
the
do we start
conversation
that?
looks like the one that we're having right now, Pamela, right? So somebody invited me and introduced me to you. And I am familiar with the work of city colleges as a former employee myself for almost 10 years prior to doing the work that I now do. But what we do know is that oftentimes that trust requires time, right? So we find ourselves moving in and out of organizations, in and out of favor on different initiatives. Anyone in not-for-profit will tell you, I'm doing this work regardless if I get funded or not. If I'm doing work with juvenile justice, just because juvenile justice is not the initiative of the day for either, our local lawmakers or our federal lawmakers, if that's my mission, then I'm going to continue to do juvenile justice. I'm dedicated to providing community-based legal aid resources. If I get a $10 million grant yesterday, but then that money dries up next year, I need to figure out ways to make sure that I build capacity so that I can continue to do that work regardless of whether or not the government or a funding agency is supporting it or not. And so let's talk about two of those things. How do we know where to go, and who do we need to trust? Trust is a relationship that is reciprocal between the community members and the organizations that serve the community. Some things may take, years and years and years. Sometimes it's an organization like ours that's been around for less than 5 years, but we hit the ground running doing the work. People know that I am not only the executive director, but for at least 3 of those almost 4 years, I was the only licensed attorney practicing at the Westside Justice Center. So there are people out there who I have worked with to help fashion and co-author solutions that work for their lives. That word then gets out about, yeah, I know Tanya, she represented me. Yeah, I know Tanya, she helped my daughter. And then we begin to build on that and bring in other organizations who are like-minded and share a similar mission. So at the Illinois Access to Justice, that is a Black-Brown coalition of 60 organizations dedicated to addressing the twin scourges of not only mass incarceration and its impact, but also the draconian policies that face immigration, right? So these are two communities that often are pitted against one another historically, that are working together on an epic scale across the state of Illinois, who are going out and canvassing from one county to from one small town to another and finding out where those community-based organizations lie, who can vouch for them, who has the trust of the community before they get any funding from us. That's how you build that trust. So I can talk about the Illinois Prison Project, even though I only met its executive director just last year. But this year, since the pandemic alone, she has helped facilitate the release of over 25 people who were previously incarcerated for their natural life. I now can vouch for her in a way that even last year, when she first became a member of the coalition, I now have some additional evidence to support the work that she does. Or an organization like the Monroe Foundation, who was one of the very first Black-led organizations when the Westside Justice Center was originally formed in 2016, to vouch for us and put us in the room with other agencies and other grant-making bodies and other foundations to say, I know this young woman and the work that she stands for because I know other people who can vouch for what she does. And so we went from an organization seeking funding to one that was then being able to share grant funding with the Monroe Foundation. And that relationship will continue to grow and be reciprocal in nature. As it relates to the city colleges of Chicago, we are always open to developing and exploring pipelines with like-minded institutions and like-minded missions, because there's always an opportunity for us to fit those ends of the pipeline together. So just as the two deans that were on earlier at City Colleges of Chicago talking about their programs, some of which I am very familiar with. Now that we're in the same room together, and we've had other people vouch for us, we can come offline now and begin to put together articulation agreements that talk about how can what we do inform the work that you do. And we might start with a small pilot of 5 to 10 individuals and figure out what that looks like. And then that can grow. And then most importantly, build that capacity and hardwire that capacity into both of our organizations so that long after Tanya Woods is gone and long after Dean Horace is gone, there are others who know about that work, and we've left a blueprint for success that will carry on and live beyond our leadership.
So I'm gonna say something.
No, absolutely. I think,
So hang on one second, Dean, because I want to bring Tyrone in this conversation. Because when you talk about vouching for people, we have to be realistic in that some of the systems in the city of Chicago have seemed to be out of reach for some regular folks living in the community, if you will, right? Because the trust has been eroded. So I'm hoping that today, this is a great springboard conversation for groups like Tyrone's group, right? So that when people come to see Tyrone is then able to pass them off to Dean. And how that works. You know what I mean? And so, and Tanya, you're talking about how people vouch for you as far as funding and things of that nature. We need people to vouch for Tyrone. Tyrone is doing the work, and so I'm hoping that conversations like this, right, will help springboard him into that. And I want to ask the dean to come back on and really talk about what things the city colleges are doing to do some kind of community outreach and reach some of the grassroots organizations like Tyrone's.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I know, Patricia and I were on to talk about, career pathways and adult education. But, this conversation around working together, as Tyrone talked about this earlier today, is about partnerships. And city colleges does have the bandwidth with the right people at the table to make this happen. So one of the things that we do at city colleges is that, pre-COVID, is to build community partnerships with community-based organizations. So we have, classes, at since the Savannah Church or within Chicago Public Schools. So we're always looking to use our resources to reach out to the community. That's part of what our Chancellor's vision is all about. But just to deviate a little bit, I think as we build this partnership, one of the things I think we really need to focus on as a group is this whole idea of intergenerational trauma. There are organizations in Inglewood and on the south side that are doing some of this work. I think we need to pull them in because in order to get our students and our young people to the next level, we need to be able to have that conversation and help them overcome and become resilient based on some of the struggles they've had in their lives. So even as city council like Kennedy King, we talk about instruction and well, we want to make sure we also talk about some of the adverse childhood experiences that our students go through, because those are just as significant as some of the cognitive stuff that they have to deal with as well.
Absolutely. I think that this is a great time for the city colleges to relaunch its sort of grassroots efforts. We're going to talk about violence prevention. What better way, once Tyrone gets people in the room, what better way is there to start educating people?
Yeah. So great start, great topic. We just can't meet the meet and talk the talk. So we must walk the walk. So it's like you were saying, that's the connections. And if I can, and like Jay minded, we could get to the guys in the streets, in the communities, and to give it legitimacy. There's no doubt about it that I served 21 years in prison. There's no doubt about it I've been a part of violence that is Chicago. So to see me change and to see that in 3 years, I can build my organization the way it is without, with my own money and funding, and with the help of people like Turner, the donations, the few donations here and there. The problem is, I belong to 15 organizations,
Right.
but those 15 organizations don't belong to ECCSC. See, so they get the funding, they got the metrics, they use the metrics, they use me, they use other grassroots organizations, and they never share in the funding, or they never pass on that these guys, I know they're doing the work. Let's see about seeing how do we link and bring them into this fold, like what Jay Mine and them doing. So it's like at some point, the same 6 organizations continue to get the funding. But yet, our conditions haven't changed, and whether we like it or not, politicians, and I'm not being political, I'm being for real, they run on prison reform, social justice, violence prevention. And it's almost like black death is a hustle, black men are hustles. And then these professionals get in these positions, and they don't stand on their bully pulpit and say, hey, we inclusion, we outreach, we equity for real. Now, how do you talk about violence prevention, prison reform, social justice, and we ain't at the table? So how is it that we're gonna believe what the executives and the intellectuals of our communities are saying to these young men when you don't even have people that they can relate to at the table? You didn't serve 20, you haven't served prison time, you haven't been shot at or shot.
Yeah.
So now you bring people in those rooms that has to help you craft policies and ideas that get at these young men.
Right.
And that's legitimate.
Right.
You can't, if you don't listen to them, how do you expect them to believe what you're saying?
Right.
When you think that you're leaning on your own understanding of what's happening in the streets, the community, the prison.
Right.
And that's really my take on it. Until we do that, and then someone say, hey, if we can get this group $1 million, we can get this group, let's start to help them build the metrics that they need to be viable.
So then, I'll say this, back to Dean and Tanya, in the sense that it's almost like, and then we still have Jay Reiner here, it's almost like we need to model as organizations, right, what we are trying to build in the community, right? So maybe if in fact you don't have the metrics just yet, Tyrone, to do that, right? Can we pair you up with someone from the city colleges who can help you put it in a format? You know what I mean? That makes sense, right? And as Tanya and her group goes to the table and within her network, knowing your background and what you're trying to do with violence prevention, how can are there natural connections?
Of course there are.
But those real quick, those metrics can't be about us being gobbled up by those who have the ears of the funders.
Right, exactly.
There has to be metrics by which we create and we chart different paths. Everything can be quantified or qualified. We can put anything in metrics.
Right.
If you can't, it's like you can't quantify how many young men I touch on the corner that stops the shooting or that. Right. There is no way to put that in the metrics. You can, but
there's no way. Then the other piece, I think, right, is it's an ecosystem, right? So then you have people who work for foundations who could say, look here, we need to look at Tyrone's group through a different lens, right? Because the way that his metrics work won't necessarily look how Tanya's metrics work.
No doubt.
Right?
And with that being said, and I'm done, is that you can't continue to say you want social justice reform, and there are organizations like ours who have over 700, 800 years of prison time and guys in leadership over here have changed their lives. This is what is meant by pulling yourself up out of bootstrap for real, and be the change you want to see. We're not asking nobody for funding. We're not asking nobody to do anything. We're saying it's going to take us to save us. So we have the formula to getting at some of these issues that's that's in the communities. Now give us the support and the resources necessary to do it.
There it is. Tanya, you had something to say?
I think that I echo and support Tyrone 100%. That is exactly why Westside Justice Center is around, for that very reason. Because we saw the same thing that he is talking about, which is you would have organizations contributing to the industrial not-for-profit complex in the same way that organizations contribute to the industrial prison complex. And so in the name of trying to help, they end up still causing harm. So with the inception of the Westside Justice Center, we didn't go out and ask, some university to do a study and tell us what Black folk needed and wanted when it came to legal services. We just looked around the area where we were and asked the people in the community in which we were situated, a community I might add I am actually from. And so while I have spent 27 years raising my family in a different neighborhood, I am from K-Town, I am from Austin, and I have spent my formative years through college living on the West Side. And so while I have not been an individual who's been previously incarcerated, half of my staff have. And half of that staff are long-timers. And the reason for that is because I heard enough people saying to us, please don't create another organization that just gets funding and throws out services and things that y'all think people want. Ask us what we want, and when you ask us, do what we tell you, right? So I get on panel after panel and conversations after conversations and hear people like Tyrone say, I'm tired of telling power what's wrong. I'm tired of speaking to the system or to the man or to the people who have the resources and telling them what we need in order to heal our own community and still being ignored. And so for us, it's not just a feedback loop when we talk about lifting up authentic leadership. It's not just rhetoric. Our staff are people who live and work in the communities that we serve. And that makes a difference in how we execute our job duty, because it's not just work for us. It's a vocation, a calling. That is why Illinois Access to Justice actually exists when there was no funding for it that was around in 2019 at all. We and other like-minded organizations, over 200 organizations, said enough is enough. We have to have adequate resources to provide legal services. We're not trying to do workforce development. We're not trying to do education. We're not trying to do housing. We are looking at this one lane of legal services. And if given an opportunity to give us some adequate funding, we're not just all going to keep it for the Westside Justice Center. We're not trying to grow a bigger Westside Justice Center. We are going to break it off and spread it around across the state, not just in Chicago, not just in Cook County, but in places around Rockford, places around Joliet, Champaign County, Carbondale, where we know that Black communities are being affected adversely day after day and often ignored. And so the same model that Tyrone is speaking of can be replicated in other places, and not only just in Illinois, but across this country. But what we do know without a doubt is that there are far more people in need of our help than there are financial resources. One thing that we don't often spend a lot of time talking about is how we ourselves can reinvest in our own strengths-based organizations. Where is that conversation about what we can do to put money back into our own organizations so that we can sustain ourselves? There are some organizations that don't take one dime of government funding, and they do quite fine, but they've been around for years and years and years, and they have benefactors that donate year after year after year in large quantities of money. Those are the kinds of investments, that we need in organizations like Tyrone's, like the Westside Justice Center and others, where we are able to sustain ourselves over time without having to be concerned about, will we have enough money to keep our doors open? Can we attract and pay for talent that can serve our community? If I get a degree at a great institution and I want to practice law, Tyrone spoke of this earlier, and some of the other panelists. You know, we have to do more than just be able to pay a living wage. But how many not-for-profit organizations that are Black-led, run by us, supported by us, can actually do that? How many Black men can actually go, who have either formerly been incarcerated or impacted by the criminal justice system, can go and find a job that will support not only himself, but his entire family, and be able to contribute to his community? Not nearly enough. And so when people ask me what they can do, I say, you know what? A simple donation, a reinvestment of Black dollars into Black organizations will go a long way. Because for every $5 or $10 that you can continue to contribute, that's maybe a $5 or $10 that I don't have to get from someplace else. That I don't have to worry about if this person or that person gets elected, you know, will we be able to have continued funding?
Right.
So I'm always open, as are the other organizations in the Illinois Access to Justice Coalition, into bringing others in. It is a formidable task that a small agency like us has been able to grant almost $5 million in grant funding to 30 organizations across the state. Oftentimes, sometimes grant funding looks like $10,000 here or $20,000 there. And while that might be enough for me, Tanya Woods, to do something with, imagine trying to run an entire organization on that. It's practically
it's not possible. And even with Tyrone just talking about, you know, I'm gonna put it back up there that you're looking for computers, right, and everything. I want the dean to come back on, because maybe the dean, you know, now having met you, right, and know
And
about
I'm
you.
from Inglewood.
And you're from Inglewood. Having met you, what kind of commitment, right, can we have from the dean maybe to even bring your name up in the rooms where you ain't at, right? I'm using all kind of broken English.
It's all good.
It's okay, we understand.
But what I'm saying
We need
is
to
you
talk our
two-
language. We're talking to one another.
Right. What I'm saying, Dean, though, maybe you have access to someone who has access to the computers that he needs, right? I'm saying that, you know, how do we do, right, bridging the gap and making sure that we're spreading this around? Because we still got Jay Mine in here, who's, their organization is doing great stuff, or whatever the case may be. How do we tie all of this together? So Dean, and we're in the interest of time, I'm gonna throw it to you.
Yep. No, just really quickly, I think that is the point, right? Like, we are all serving same or similar clients, right? But we are doing our work in isolation. So we, you know, maybe this is future forward thinking, but we need a consortium where we all come together, where Tyrone is sitting at the table and saying, look, this is what I need. And then city colleges can say, look, oh, you know, we can assist in these ways. But by the way, we need to, can some of your participants come and take free CED classes?
Yep.
So to your point, apparently, I think, you know, I can't make any commitment here, but definitely I think we should connect, we should start building that infrastructure and those partnerships. And I think that's how we will resolve some of the issues that we're facing today.
Yeah, so I'm definitely going to make the commitment to keep this conversation going. I'm gonna throw it to you really quickly, Jay Miner, because I want Tyrone to have the last word since he was gracious enough to host us today. So I'm gonna let you have.
Okay.
Well, what I really want to say is I'm encouraged by this whole thing, and I want to go on record to let you know that I'm committed to dot the I's and cross the T's. And I say that, Tyrone, because here's the deal. As a former director, I'm a former director of Ceasefire, Cure Violence, and the real deal is I know how to do it. If I can go down there and get 6 million, 9 million, 12 million for Dr. Slugkin, I certainly can go get a million for
Here it
you.
is. Come on.
Okay,
Come on.
that's what's happening. And I'm also encouraged by this whole deal, Pam. I'm so encouraged about the construction deal because, see, he's talking about not being at the tables, but guess what? They're scared about the next elections, Tyrone. So we got people calling us saying, can we clean up their act before the deal? You know, we're not going to use names, but they're giving a guy $6 million that don't know what a red line is. And then he wanna call me and ask me questions every day. I told him to go back to New York and ask them some questions. That's the first thing. But what I really wanna just say is I'm committed, man, to help you dot the I's and cross the T's. I also know that we got the real cure to violence prevention, because if these guys can sell work and had myriads of work, if I get them in the construction game, their whole life change. When I take them to a closing, okay, and they walk out of there with a $200,000 check, they not trying to be in the dope game no more. You get what I'm saying? They understand it. When they take the whole crew that they got, that was in their mind, that they was ordering around or giving advice to or giving work to, and they now can put a paintbrush, carpenter's deal around them, I know that it can work. It won't stop them all, because everybody ain't gonna stop. You know what I'm trying to say? We didn't stop until we wanted to stop. But the real situation is, I know that that's an avid way out. If they can get in the construction industry, ladies, gentlemen, and everybody else, and put their workers to work, it's less to fight about. It's less opportunities for things to happen. And we will come back at a later date, because I tell you, we know the fight is fixed. The substance abuse, the mental health, all these things are part of the deal that's going on with crime. But we got to pull the covers off of them, and we're not gonna let these people continue to run liquor stores and do what they do in our community and don't cut us in.
You wanna say something else before I wrap us up?
Yes, real quick.
So, thank you, Pam, for including me and our organization in this discussion. Jay Minor, we work together a lot, and we all fighting that pretty much the same fight. As formerly incarcerated men, we've come in to recognize our power. We've come to recognize we have the biggest voting block, even bigger than LGBTQ, because we're able to bring 5 and 10 people with us. Our ladies, our mothers, our sisters, our women will vote our interests. And once we learn to galvanize that power for real, then everything we want in terms of prison reform, re-entry, will happen overnight. But as long as we as black men, our bodies are a hustle, our death is a hustle. Everything about us is a hustle for funding and programs. We have to say at some point, we have to maximize our relationships to get at what we need for our communities. I watched from the prison cell for 20 years how our communities have become marginalized, disinvested. And in that time, it festered in me that, you know what, we have to change the conditions ourselves. No savior is coming to save us. Everyone profits off our ignorance. So in standing here, I'm saying to you all that's listening, we have to find teams, organization, find your part in the body. Whether you're the heart, liver, kidney, spleen, spine. I never hear the lungs telling the brain that don't need it. So we have to be a real body. So I'm thankful, I'm hopeful. That's why we're doing what we're doing. And we're not afraid to say, I'm not looking for expungement. Because we live in a society that we as people has forgiven, pretty much forgiven America for what it has done to us. Every day, all day. But yet we don't have enough love and heart to forgive our returning citizens who are our family. We allow the law, we allow the system to marginalize and continue to victimize us. I call us permanent underclass. Because everything from our laws our rights being restored, after we served our debt to society, we still have to fight for that. And we're hopeful that we can prevent our young men from going to prison and these early graveyards. So I'm looking forward to linking with our educational professionals. I'm looking forward to linking with our construction professionals and getting to what we can. Because we can talk about the problem, but I'm telling you that The solution is right in your face, and if you're afraid to use it, then that's not our fault. Thank you.
So, I want to thank everyone for saying yes to participating in this organization, right? Or in this forum today. Just want to bring it back in. Lakeside Alliance as builders, we need each and every last one of your organizations because you're the ones who are touching the bodies of the people that we're gonna need once we start to build. And so that doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? And Tyrone, you said, find your part in the body. Okay, we build, right? You're gonna help us get the people to help build. Tanya's gonna help us get the folks cleared and ready to go. Just like the oldest Monroe Foundation, and just like the dean, they're helping people educate. You gotta teach, everybody gotta do their part. So we are committed as the Lakeside Alliance to continue to make certain that we are providing the resources or access to the resources that people will need once we are ready to go and once we're there. So on behalf of the Lakeside Alliance, I want to thank you, Tyrone, for hosting us here on today. I want to thank our panelists. I am committed to continuing the discussion and continue to raise to the level of visibility the needs of these grassroots organizations that are out here doing good work. With that, I'm going to say thank you. Thank you to my tech person, Maurice Robinson. You can connect with us at lakesidealliance.com. Follow us on all social media platforms, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you.